Rebecca Balcarcel, and I'm usually talking about poems or short stories or my books as a novelist, but I also make a few videos about the Camino de Santiago, which I walked a portion of 2 weeks of in 2021. And I'm excited to be planning my next Camino for summer of 2023. And because of that, I've been asking myself the question that a lot of people ask me, which is, what do you do for all those hours on the Camino? You're walking 7, 8 hours a day, you're passing through villages, and you're definitely having, a cafe con leche, a little snack along the way, you're refilling your water. But how do you fill all those hours? And as I've been looking through my mementos, this is my pilgrim's passport, and also I've been looking at my journal, which I do recommend, jotting down a couple of notes every day, maybe in your phone if that's easier. I found this to be really great when I was remembering my Camino, and of course, I took a lot of pictures on the Camino, so many, and I finally made an album of all of my adventures. It's just it's a huge book. Not everybody wants to do that, but because I've been looking back at those materials, and as I talk to people about, hey, I'm going to start a new Camino, this question keeps coming up. Like, well, you're walking for hours. What are you thinking about? How do you occupy yourself? How do you not get bored? And a couple of answers. Okay, so number one, some people actually bring audiobooks or listen to music. And in fact, music can be very moving, very powerful for people. If you want to make it more of a spiritual emphasis, you can have obviously music that fits that. If you want it to be more of an athletic adventure, you can have that kind of music, or just you may like make your Camino playlist. So some people listen to stuff, music, audiobooks, and some people are quite social, and so they befriend other pilgrims and make new friends and have bonds, which is very natural. And people do bond, I found, very quickly on the Camino, because you're going through a very unusual experience together, and there's a sense of trust and also a ease of opening up to folks. Partly because of the shared experience, and maybe also because you're lifted out of your normal world. You're not sort of insulated by your typical friends, family, and whatever. You're kind of forced to interact with your fellow pilgrims if you're social. If you're not quite as social, maybe that won't be. You might walk alone, and I think walking alone is a really good idea. I appreciated the time alone. I wasn't sure either what I would think about and do during those 6, 7, 8 hours of walking every day. But walking alone gives you a certain interiority that is very valuable. And that interiority is hard to replicate back in your normal life. Of course, it can be done, but it takes a lot of like deliberate effort. Whereas on the Camino, you are kind of alone unless you decide not to be. Of course, you might go on the Camino with a group or with friends, but even in that case, I recommend some alone time on the trail. And that is because for me, I did not listen to any audiobooks. I did not listen to any music. I did not walk with people and converse very much. I did, a couple of sections. I don't mean whole days, but, a few hours with someone, which I really enjoyed. But the bulk of those hours were alone. And I relished it. I'm already someone who likes my own company. I tend to um, spend time alone, even back in the world, in my normal life. But I really enjoyed the silence and the sounds of the places I was in, whether it was a city or whether I was walking through nature. If you have um, constantly music and constantly audiobooks and things, you're going to miss out on the sounds of, just your feet crunching the trail, gravel or dirt, um, birds, of course, and just the wind in the trees. So give some time to that. I would. I mean, of course, this is so personal, individual. You have to make your own experience what you want it to be. But as far as answering that question of, well, what do you do for 7 hours in your head while you're walking? Part of it is just tuning in to your surroundings. So tune into the experience you're having in your body and in your, immediate surroundings, and being that, I guess, kind of a mindfulness approach makes it feel like you're part of something. You're part of the shadows and the light of the day. You're part of the weather. So that is actually not boring. And you find yourself, the hours are going by, and if you're just tuned into the variety of plant life and also how the landscape changes, like, are we going up or down? How are the views changing? What kind of vegetation grows here that yesterday I didn't see that flower? Because you're moving through the landscape, through different sections of like kind of microclimates. So tuning into your present moment, that can make it not be boring. Secondly, there's a time toward the beginning of walking, I think a lot of people experience, where you're thinking a lot about the logistics of what you're doing. Like, do I have my water? Do I have my, you know, um, passport? Where's my camera and like my money? And you're getting down the logistics of how to walk and like where you're going to put things. And that's, day one, day two, you're figuring that out. And then there's a time of, for me anyway, there was a time where my head was kind of full of my normal life and memories and like problem solving, and that was useful. But my favorite stage was when I got past the noise of that and I started to just have more inner silence. And inner silence was one of the things I was hoping would happen on the Camino. And so I was very happy when I just realized I am walking, I am experiencing, I am appreciating everything around me, and things like shade when it's sunny and hot, or things like a cool breeze, the weather. It's it's very relieving, I guess, to have that inner quiet. And it took me a few days to get there. So again, kind of back to the mindfulness things, but there can be a time when it's quite silent in your mind, and to me that was welcome. That was a good thing. Another thing that I found myself doing a lot was concentrating on where I'm stepping. So this is less like mystical and just more practical, but there are going to be places, stretches where you're going uphill and it's physically hard, or you're going downhill and it's physically hard, or you need to step carefully. There's mud, debris, rocks in some places. The trail really is just like a bunch of rocks that you're stepping on. There's no like soil left. It's all eroded, more mountainous moments. There's a stage before Molina Seca that's just, wow. I had to pay attention, because I thought, if I twist my ankle, if I fall, I might have to stop walking entirely. Like, my Camino might be over. So I wanted to be very careful and concentrate and not twist the ankle, fall. So it actually took a lot of effort to just be safe, like step well and watch where I'm going. So some of my mental energy was just spent keeping my body upright and keeping, my feet planted in good places, keeping my balance, using my walking poles and all of that. So there are days that are kind of mentally tiring because the trail itself was a challenge. And that is a valuable thing too, because you arrive, you can fully rest, you're tired in body and mind, and you're just so happy to be at the albergue or wherever you're staying, or at a supper, eating, uh, um, and just kind of relaxing. So, that's what happens in those 7 8 hours of walking. Yeah, concentrating on what you're doing, being mindful to the nature around you, enjoying some inner silence and peace, and possibly thinking through problems in your normal life, thinking through relationships, thinking through memories. There's a time for that too, maybe some fairly deep thinking about those things, plus the socializing you could be doing. Plus, yeah, you might bring audiobooks and you might bring music. Um, but create what you want, because those are hours that, yes, you're walking, um, but you can kind of decide ahead of time how you want it to be, or even along the way, like, I want to change. I was walking with people, now I'm going to start walking by myself more, or whatever. But yeah, I hope you make time for the silence. It's just a really valuable, un, something hard to produce back in your regular life of like work and relationship things. So yeah, enjoy enjoy the Camino for all the in all the ways that you can. And um, but if you want it to be meaningful and mindful and find some silence, you can do that. And that was very meaningful for me. So okay, I hope this helped or was interesting. For sure, leave some comments below. So many people have walked many, many more kilometers than I have, and I'd be curious to see, what would they say in answer that question of what do you think about for 8 hours a day? Okay, buen camino.